Hey everyone, and welcome to the Defining Your Life podcast, where we focus on living in our purpose, practicing presence, and activating our power in each moment. I'm Marsha Rell, your resident pep talk provider, and I invite you to join me as we continue to learn, lift each other up, and strive to level up together. Because we are never finished defining our lives, and it takes a village, so let's build one. Stay tuned for the episode. Hey everyone, welcome back to the pod. I hope that all is well and that you had a fantastic week. And if for some reason you find yourself in a place where things aren't going as you have hoped or planned, I pray that you would be encouraged. A couple of weeks ago, we talked about optimism. And frankly, sometimes the only thing that you can fall back on is your faith and a positive attitude to keep you going when you find yourself feeling defeated. I want to remind you that those two things can take you farther than you could ever imagine if you trust and believe. So keep the faith and be positive in the midst of it all, because getting to the other side of whatever it is that you're going through as soon as possible is definitely the goal, right? And these two things will help you get there. So as we finished up 2024 and moved into 2025, I started thinking a lot about how I live holistically, not the goals I have or the milestones that I'm trying to meet, but the everyday way that I am living my life. And one thing that came to mind was this idea around quality versus quantity. Now, you can relate this concept to a lot of things, right? Because the first thought that came to mind for me was material purchases such as clothing, accessories, all that jazz. And I do hold true to this idea when it comes to my wardrobe. I started to be more intentional about it several years ago when I decided that I would do a bit more investing in pieces that I love and just be fine with wearing and re-wearing them and being photographed in them multiple times instead of just buying and spending on fast fashion, to simply embrace the practice of having more. I'm sure a lot of us can relate, especially back when Instagram first came on the scene, right? And you're like, I don't want to be photographed in this at somebody's party and then wear it to this wedding or whatever the case may be. But you know what I'm talking about. But what it really boiled down to was always being focused on having more, right? Having more of the things that I may only be seen in once, but also having more of the things that I didn't necessarily feel amazing in. And that concept just stopped making sense to me, because in reality, if I see something and I love it and it makes me feel good, why wouldn't I want to put it on over and over? Because I feel good in it, right? It may make me feel confident or creative or sexy. And so if I have to pay a little more and have a little less, but love everything that I have, that's the goal for me. And I'm still working on this conversion, by the way. It's not an overnight conversion, but the goal is a more curated closet that reflects me and not just abundance. Now, oftentimes, when thinking about quantity, we only think about things like our wardrobe, when really there are so many areas in our lives that we can apply the practice of quality over quantity to. Take appliances and cookware as another example. How many different pots and pans do you cook with on a regular basis? And how many pieces of cookware do you actually have? I'll speak for the general population, or maybe just myself, when I say that many of us truly have too many. Because I find myself utilizing the same 4 or 5 pieces of cookware, but in reality, I have many more pots and pans than that. All because someone packaged it up and told me that those were the pieces that I needed, when in reality, I could have purchased everything I needed a la carte, done without the additional odd-sized pans that I never reach for, and have a better quality pan because I chose that one specifically, right? And could build on that over time. So how would it feel to let go of all of those unnecessary pots and pans? Lighter, maybe? More in control? More organized? Shedding those unnecessary items is doing more than clearing out a few cabinets in your kitchen. It's clearing out space in your mind, in your life. And yes, it is making you feel more in control and much lighter. When there is less to manage and you vetted what you're working with, you're more liable to make a clear, confident decision. If you've curated your wardrobe, you're more liable to look good every time, no matter what you reach for in your closet. If you curate the stuff in your kitchen, you'll reach for the right tools every time without anything else getting in the way, right? It's the quality that matters, y'all, not the quantity. And these are just two examples, but there are so many other ways for us to prioritize quality in our lives. And what you're doing when you adopt this practice is not only simplifying your life, but also elevating it. So let's take a beat and evaluate some areas in which we can prioritize quality over quantity for everyday living and how to do so, right? For starters, let's make intentional purchases. Ask yourself, do you really love it? Or is it just good enough? Do you have more than what you need? How many of those do you need? Are you being impulsive? Are you over consuming? Right? Those are just some thoughts to think about, get the juices flowing when you're thinking about making purchases or find yourself in a position where you're ready to make a purchase. Just because you were able to get it on sale or buy it in bulk doesn't automatically mean it was a good value for you. Keywords being for you. Now, my husband loves Costco, and I actually think Costco is great as well. But I do struggle with buying in bulk. Like, I like to keep my sugar in like a glass jar, or glass canister type of thing. But a 30-pound bag of sugar doesn't allow me to do that. So now I'm stressed because I need to find a storage solution that I don't have for the oversized bag. In that instance, I have to ask myself, is it worth it to me? And how long is the sugar even going to last, right? Will I ever get through the bag of sugar? Will moisture get into the bag before I finish it? Will it expire? Trivial things, I know, but things to think about nonetheless when you're talking about quantity in your life, right? Sugar may seem like a silly example, but it's also very real. And I'm sure that you can find something to sub out for the sugar I use to illustrate my point here. And sidebar, if you are someone who is a bulk buyer, I would love to hear from you. What makes bulk buying great? And do you have some tips for storing bulk items outside of like those large boxes and bags that the stuff comes in? I need to know, okay? We are a family of 4, and it doesn't always seem worth it to me to buy certain things in bulk, but maybe I can be convinced. So hit me up if you are an experienced bulk buyer. But moving right along, let's talk about the social and leisurely parts of our life, because you may need some quality control here as well. Now, we can fall into doing a whole lot of the same that may be costing us a whole lot of money, but giving us limited return on investment. So I want to encourage you to do something different, right? If you go out to dinner twice a week, maybe take the money that you would have spent on those 2 subpar meals and schedule an activity instead. Catch some live music or an art exhibit and lunch. Yes, you may have pared down to going out just once a week, but now you're doing something that's a bit more stimulating, right? You've engaged in something that could be part of meaningful conversation later, and you've also created a memory that you can pull from. When you go out to the same restaurants over and over, and don't get me wrong, I love a good restaurant, right? But that I'm talking about that, every Thursday you go and eat here, every Friday you go and eat there. And, it's just run of the mill, and you find yourself spending and not really even enjoying the food at this point. Why are we doing that? That's a whole lot of quantity and you're not getting much back, right? So just think about, how you can shift there. It's also helpful to audit each area of your life to see where you can improve the quality of your experiences or decrease the quantity where there is excess. So this can include anything from your volunteerism and involvement to health and wellness, friends and family, romantic relationships, education, beauty, whatever. We've talked about, overextending in the past, but how many groups and organizations do you belong to? Is it too many? Is your presence quality, or are you just in attendance? Because one thing I know for sure is that we don't do anyone any favors by stretching ourselves too thin. So which organizations can you let go of so that you can increase the quality of your involvement and the ones that you can bring the most value to and that bring value to you? What about the time you spend with your family? Is it quality or is your time split between competing priorities? Split time is never quality, y'all. So do the audit. Think about the areas that you can increase quality and evaluate where the quantity isn't as impactful as you may have once thought. Less is more. We're not talking, you having to become a minimalist, though I do aspire to be, like a low level minimalist. I don't know what you would call that, partial minimalist or whatever. But when you are focused on less, you can see the value that each and everything brings to you. And with that comes the discovery of richness and layers in many areas of your life that you may not have otherwise recognized in the midst of the chaos of quantity. In some places, quantity is great, like in your underwear drawer. But for everything else, take a look at the quality versus the quantity and see where some simple shifts can elevate your experiences as well as your love and appreciation for the everyday things and activities in your life. I'll share a quote from Mahatma Gandhi today. It is the quality of our work that will please God, not the quantity. Thanks so much for listening today. If what you have been hearing has been beneficial, please don't forget to share, review, and follow the pod. And I can't wait to chat with you all again next week. Take care until then.